All right, let's get right into it. Today we're following a trail of missing money, and where it leads is pretty devastating. We're talking about a massive public health failure in the Indian state of Meghalaya. And believe me, this isn't just a story about numbers on a page. It's an investigation into a system that's truly in crisis.
Just let that sink in for a moment. This quote from our source material, it just cuts right to the heart of everything, doesn't it? It shows you this isn't about abstract policies or budget lines. It's about real people, about lives being lost, families being shattered. It's about a system failing its most vulnerable citizens right when they need it the most.
So that's the big question, right? Where did the money go? That's what we're here to investigate. It's the same question families all across Meghalaya are asking, and it's the mystery we're going to try to unpack today. Okay, so to really get a grip on just how big this crisis is, we have to start by looking at the devastating human cost. And the source material is pretty clear on this. This isn't just some random accident or oversight. It's a tragedy that's being driven by massive policy failures.
And look, this isn't just a one-off bad year. This is a pattern. According to the National Crime Records Bureau, year after year, Meghalaya is consistently ranked among the top 5 states in India for suicide rates. The data is pointing to a really deep, persistent crisis. And it's hitting the youth and people in rural areas the hardest, exactly where help is often impossible to find.
Now you'd think with a crisis this obvious, this clear, there'd be a huge push, a massive mobilization of resources, right? Well, that's where the budget comes in. And yeah, let's just see what the numbers have to say.
So, on paper, it actually looks pretty good. We're talking an annual budget of 10 to 20 crore rupees. That's millions of dollars. This is the money that's supposed to be funding psychiatrists, building clinics, running crisis helplines. The money is there. Or is it?
And this is where it all goes wrong. This is where the money just seems to vanish. Look at this breakdown from our sources. You see 100% of the funds allocated, but only 30 to 50% is actually used. That means a staggering 50 to 70% is either just sitting there unspent or, as the source alleges, diverted. This right here is the budget black hole we're talking about.
And if you want to see the real-world impact of that vanishing money, just look at this chart. It's shocking. On one side, you've got the World Health Organization's recommendation, 1 psychiatrist for every 10,000 people. Okay, now look at Meghalaya. The reality there is 1 psychiatrist for every 500,000 people. That is a catastrophic gap. It's what happens when money on paper never actually turns into care for people.
So the obvious question is, if the money isn't being spent on doctors and clinics, where's it going? Well, this is where we start following the money trail to see how these funds are allegedly being misused. Okay, get ready for this because the contrast here is just wild. On the left, you have what the money is for: community mental health workers, crisis helplines, rehab centers, life-saving stuff. And on the right, this is where the source alleges it actually goes: workshops in luxury hotels, consultant fees that produce nothing, even foreign study tours. The gap between what's promised and what's delivered is absolutely staggering.
Now, it's tempting to think this is just about a few bad apples, right? But it's more complicated than that. The source material points to really deep, systemic flaws that make the whole mental health sector incredibly vulnerable to this kind of neglect and, alleged corruption.
So why does this keep happening? Well, it's kind of like a perfect storm. First off, mental health is invisible. You can't cut a ribbon for a crisis hotline. There's no photo op. Second, there's the social stigma that keeps people from speaking up and demanding better. Third, these budgets are super complex, which makes it way easier to hide where the money is really going. And finally, it's easy for officials to just deflect blame and call it a social problem instead of what it is, a healthcare failure.
And this is where things get really useful. The source gives us a way to push back, a tool for accountability. It gives us direct responses to the typical excuses. So, for example, when an official says, "Oh, we just don't have enough trained professionals," the informed response is, "Okay, then why isn't the budget being used to create incentives to attract them or to train the doctors you do have?" See? It turns a helpless complaint into a really sharp, informed demand.
Okay, so understanding the problem is one thing. But what can actually be done about it? Well, the next step is action. And the great thing is, the source material lays out a clear framework for how you, as a citizen, can start demanding some accountability. It's basically a 3-step plan. Step 1, document what's really happening in your own community. What's the reality on the ground? Step 2, follow the money. Use the legal tools you have to get the real budget numbers. And step 3,
Public exposure. Share what you find with the media, organize hearings, bring it all out into the open. It's a really clear path from just being concerned to actually taking action.
And that second step, following the money, has a key. It's called the Right to Information Act, or RTI. This is a really powerful law in India that lets any citizen request information from the government, and the government has to reply. It's the tool that can finally unlock these budget black holes and show us where the money is.
And it's so important to remember this. When you make these demands, you're not just on moral high ground, you're on legal high ground. The failure to provide this care isn't just wrong, it actually violates major laws, like the Mental Health Care Act and even the constitutional right to life. That gives citizens a really solid legal foundation to stand on when they demand change.
So, we're going to end with one last question, but this one isn't for the government, it's for you. A system like this, it only works, it only persists because it counts on people being silent. It relies on it. So the real question is, will you break that silence? Because honestly, what happens next is up to all of us.